First thing you want to do is remove this entire fender and hood assembly. It seems worse than it is. It comes right off. There are 6 10mm bolts under that hood. There are 2 10mm bolts on each side of the fender wells. There's a 4mm Allen on each side, and then all these push pins. Take that off, unbolt it all. If you have a impact or a cordless drill to make it super fast, just take that fender loose and slide it up the pillars and hold it up there with a ratchet strap or a bungee or something. Get it out of the road. Then take both of your passenger seats out. There's 4 bolts that hold each one on. This bolster is connected to the passenger seat. You're going to take all this out. The seat belt slides out around it, and you can take both of them out and set them out. There's a plastic cover underneath that seat with your toolkit, a couple bolts and some push pins. Take it out. You'll need to remove that center section of that floorboard and get it out of the way. The cable routes right down this side with a bunch of other stuff. Then there's a bunch of zip ties holding it on that you'll need to cut to get it free. And there's little holders that the zip ties slide through. You'll need zip ties to put it all back together. Basically it routes right through there. There's just a couple of holders back in there before it gets to the caliper. It's pretty simple to do. The hardest part is getting that off. Well, once you get that hood up, it's a piece of cake to put this thing in. Plus, when you get that floorboard up, you'll be able to clean up under there. So I took it all apart and then took a hose and hosed it all out. You'll end up taking this floorboard, the bolts of it loose. I just left the bolts laying right in there. Then I took a ratchet strap and just pulled that floorboard up out of the road, because that cable and all those other assemblies run right underneath this floorboard. So you got to get it lifted up, and I just hooked it right up here and held it up out of my way so I could get to it. It's pretty simple if you just do that. It's pretty straightforward once you get all that stuff out of the road. With a cordless impact, you can get all that stuff done in about 5 or 10 minutes. If you have a buddy helping you, even better. So once you get the fender up, you got to get these 2 bolts off, one here and one down there, and disconnect this wiring, and then you'll be able to pull the handle out and work on it right here. I don't know where yours broke, but that's where mine broke, right at the handle. So you can get started on undoing the cable now. You take that cover off under the passenger seat, puts you through the gas tank, which is pretty nasty under there. So you want to take an air hose and clean that off on there. See the cable routing right under the air box. Probably could snake it through there. Next time I look this up. Probably a good idea to take some spray lube or something and keep that, maybe some spray grease. I'm just going to take a little bit of PV Blaster and spray that thing down. Make sure it don't rot out on me till the next time I'm in. But every Japanese car I've ever owned, Honda, Toyota, these spots right here will rot out on you, and you want to spray those down. Keep them lubed. If you look on the drive line right there, there's a grease fitting right there, and there's another one in the front. You get this done up while you're under here. And I'd probably find every one of those connections on the brake line and spray them down as well. Eventually, those holders hold all the dirt and shit in there, and they're going to rot through, just like that floorboard's doing where the powder coating's coming off. Do it now, or you'll pay for it later. So with the caliper, you've just got a hole. no bolts or nothing, just push it down in, you hook it on to the cam arm and then pull it up and seat it. When you put that cable up under the air box right there, don't force it through there. It just kind of slide it up under there, but don't force it because you'll end up rolling that cable over. You don't want to kink that thing. Just be nice and easy and reach up in there as far as you can and just fish it right through. And it goes back in that clasp right there, and there's another clasp right there. Pretty straightforward. Tell you what. Alright. The cable runs under that floorboard right there. It's zip tied every so often. So, okay, I'd say this is probably maybe one of the most important parts of this whole job. That cable has a way it wants to be in there because it's a wound wire rope. It has a way it wants to relax in there. So when you put this in there, this 90 is going to point forward of the handle. So you got to make sure you seat this in the hole in the direction it wants to go. You don't want to put it in there and then rotate it around and put tension on that cable. You want that cable to be right where it wants to be according to its winding. You can see it right there. Right there is where it wants to be, and seat it. Otherwise, every time you pull it, if you put back tension on it, it'll want to unwind that wire rope. That may be why they fail, who knows. So in closing, we'll just go over some of the tools you'll need and general steps if you're wanting to do this. You need a couple 12mm wrenches, 12mm socket, 10mm socket. It's the basics, along with that 4mm Allen right there, screwdriver to get those push pins out. Then when you get all of the fender out, floorboard out, cleaned up and everything, get ready and get your cable put back in there. Start from the back, hook it up in the back. Of course, you'll have your cable all in there already. Hook it up in the back, and then the very last thing you're going to do is hook the cable up in the front and then bolt it back up, plug in. And then the only adjustment you have is the bolts up front, so make sure you hook it up in the back first and work your way forward, and then put all the plastic back on, and it's pretty well done. So hope this helped you out. You guys, like, share, and subscribe. Talk to you on the next one.